Amazing.
So we're very pleased that you can join us for this Q&A that we're going to have now. This is our first opportunity to share the work, and we'd love to hear your feedback. We've also had some nice chat messages come through. Well done, everyone. Well done, beautiful people. It's just wonderful to see you perform. Love you all. Ellie says, so amazing and such a treat to watch you all move and create as an ensemble. Absolutely, I would agree with that. And I would like to extend an extra special well done to these guys for dealing with the seemingly almost impossible, but actually quite possible in the end, restrictions that we've been working under in terms of social distancing. I mean, when it comes to working choreographically with space, that is a big challenge. And we've been very lucky to be in the studio together. And I'm amazed at how creative and complex and nuanced the choreography that they've come up with has been with those extreme restrictions. So I also feel very honored to witness what you guys have created with, many different sorts of, limitations in a sense to what we can do in terms of space. So I think to create a work that they've done with those limitations is an extra big achievement. Yeah. Great. So, yeah. So we'd be really happy to hear your comments, your questions, your feedback. I might even get the conversation started by just asking, we have, as you may have noticed from the piece, we have 4 main sections. There's a kind of an earth section in the beginning, then it goes into a water section. Then we have fire sort of battling with water. And finally, a section working with the principle or the quality of air as a material. So I thought it might be nice to kick off the Q&A by hearing from some of the choreographers a little bit about how they approached working with their different sections. Would anyone like to start?
Yeah, Malika, you can go first.
Okay, so I created the fire battle section. I kind of just went with an overall sense of chaos. I kind of took a lot of like urban street influences for it. And I just wanted everyone to kind of look crazy on stage. So that's kind of what I went
with. Great. Thank you, Malika.
No problem.
I guess I'll go next. So obviously, I took the water section, which is the second section. The movement itself was quite flowy, but obviously, when you just watch flowing movement, it can just look very simple and plain and boring almost. So I kind of went for more of an internal approach. So it's like using the whole body rather than just limbs. So like coming from core outwards almost to create more of a rippled wave effect as such. But yeah, I really enjoyed it.
So I created the earth section along with Katie, who's not here today. And we kind of just wanted to go for like a more grounded feel because our section's earth. And we used a few circular shapes in there as well. Stuff like that, really. Yeah. That's what Who's next?
Katie was that team as well.
Yeah, I said Katie was part of it, but she's not here.
She's not here today, but we send her our best.
You go. Yeah, so I did the air section, and the main problem was obviously I had this idea of flocking and birds and traveling together, which was really difficult to do distanced. So it was kind of trying to find the qualities and the idea, but do it far enough apart. So,
yeah. Thank you. Yeah, the challenge is to really see how we can connect through space together as a group. It was a real, I think, a learning curve for us too. And then we also, I kind of brought the original idea to the group and said, this is a theme I'd like us to work with. And we also were listening to Alan Watts, the philosopher and Zen Eastern religion scholar, who was quite active in his research in the 1960s and 70s, and his voice is what you hear in different moments as transition throughout the piece. So if you want counseling in a bottle, I suggest you look up Alan Watts. He's got some fantastic lectures on YouTube. It'll cure what ails you. And I think the group has done a really lovely job of drawing this together, and Ollie edited, well, Malika and Ollie took care of the editing overall, and Ollie ended up drawing the full thing together with the credits at the last minute. So they get an extra round of applause for a huge job, really, creating this large video. It's a whole work in and of itself. So we'd love to hear from you guys now. To hear your questions, your highlights, maybe things that stuck with you or that you particularly noticed or enjoyed. You're our first audience, so we'd love to hear from you. Connor always has something to say. Go, Connor.
Well, everyone, I think it was fantastic. I'm
just going to mute myself talking so the sound.
Yeah, brilliant job, as Malika was saying. So you should all be really, really proud of yourselves. I was just curious when I was watching, I know it kind of carries on from Malika's question, but so you said you worked with like the ideas of water, air, ground, fire, these kinds of like images, I guess, as choreography. But how did you build the choreographies is something that I was wondering while I was watching it. So was it that you was working with scores? Was it that you was working with kind of just random placements of movements and then developing like some sort of fluidity? I think it was Ollie that said that you was working with kind of like slow flow movement, but coming from the core. Yeah, I feel like I've confused myself and probably you now. So how did you build the choreographies, like the structures, the placements, where you was all very positioned in space? Yeah, was there any particular way that you worked to?
Great, thank you for the question.
So sorry. So when Malika kind of gave us Zen, obviously the first thing we thought of was like peaceful, like serenity, but we kind of just thought like we don't really want it to be calm the whole way through the performance. So we kind of came up with the idea of like, what happens if you're not Zen? You're like chaotic. So we wanted to show like the development from being in like that state of mind and then reaching kind of like the peak of like, say, anger or madness, and then again coming back to the realization of like Zen. So we kind of wanted to show like a nice swoop effect of that. Ollie, any more?
Yeah. So obviously with each element comes certain qualities as such. So obviously what we then did as a group, we all did like a brainstorming session of, say, for example, earth, what's correlated to earth, like roots. So the feet are very grounded. So that's why we stomp in one section, because it's keeping within the ground. Air, it's very free flowing. You don't really know where it's going to go as such. So that's why the movements were sometimes a bit erratic as to which direction they were possibly moving into. Fire, abruptive, chaotic, flashy, Water has this nice smooth effect most of the time, and you can sort of know where it's going to end and where it's starting. So we sort of brainstorm with those kind of ideas and then sort of creating motifs from the brainstorming session as such. But yeah, that's it.
Great, thank you for the question. Does anyone else want to respond to that? Yeah, Neve? Oh, Sarah. Great, go for it, Sarah. We'll mute ourselves while you're talking.
Thank you. Wow, it's amazing to see you. I have to say, it made me really feel how much I've missed you since we've last, and also just since we've all last been in the studio. Gosh, so thank you, everybody. It's amazing to see your work, really, for everybody's just energy and efforts and movement and editing, and it's beautiful, really, really. So, super congratulations. I just to sort of respond to Malika's question, also about sort of things that stand out. I really love the different qualities. You really shift us through sort of different ways of engaging with your movement also. So I thought that was really, really strong. The sections come across really different, and it's really nice to be pulled into different qualities. So that's beautiful. And Nicole also says beautiful work, which is absolutely. So that's a very strong impression that I get as an audience. and well done for that. And I also, it was interesting to hear you talk about the organization, the kind of sort of choreographic thinking beyond the movement material. I also had a question about that in terms of your maybe could you also sort of talk a little bit about your overall organization? Each section has its choreography, but how you sort of thought about, and I guess that also includes the editing, which is superb, by the way, with your kind of sort of listening to music also. So I'd be curious to hear a little bit more about the bigger organization, the wider choreography of the piece as a piece of screen dance material. And I'd also really love to know how you feel about next week in engaging with a very different audience, with students, and sort of your thoughts around workshopping and talking about the process. So how are you feeling in preparing for that, you beautiful people? Take it away. I hope that makes sense.
Thanks, Sarah. Great question. We've been running our workshop, trial runs of the workshop, practice runs, last day and tomorrow afternoon as well. So we're really looking forward to working with the young people. In terms of the overall arc of the work, I can say a little bit about it, but it was really over to them in terms of coming up with these, the focus on the elements and a way of really working with that as a sort of grounding theme. I brought in the films of some of the nature scenery from some trips to North Wales that I've been doing, and brought that in to feed the sort of kind of the transition from in the studio to outdoors. And Ollie kind of put the whole thing together with the sort of transitions as well, and weaving in the bits of quotations and ideas from Alan Watts. So maybe Ollie, would you like to say a bit more about that?
Yeah, I can definitely say the editing process, and I'm sure I can speak for Malika here, has been very stressful.
Very, very stressful.
It's just one of those things you've got to spend time on, because at the end of the day, you've got to listen to the movement quality at the same time as the accompaniment, whilst also trying to be able to join complete opposing sections. Because you've got water, for example, that goes into fire. It's like, how do you go from like a nice drip, drip, drip to boom, boom? And it's like, that was the hardest thing I thought that I found, trying to transition between each section. So I just thought trying to use like Alan Watts as an overall arching go back to point, it just sort of like made a full circle, a Zen circle. So we did there. But no, other than that, it's been enjoyable. We've all had our stressful moments, but as a company, I think we've all worked through it really well.
Yeah, I'm super proud of how they've all worked and how you guys have collaborated. And I think the Zen Circle is a nice point to come back to, actually, that theme on the poster that I created originally. And then the students took it on as a t-shirt design for the company, Foreseeable Fusion Dance Company. So we have the Enzo, somebody can model the t-shirt. Of course, Shannon is here to show it off.
This was designed by our lovely Malika Bam.
Thank you, I'm a designer.
The idea is that, Zen monks would meditate for hours just to come to the place of being so centered and still that all they would need is one brush stroke to create the perfect calligraphy circle, this Enzo. And that piece of art, you don't make 100 versions of it, you make one, but you meditate for 5 hours beforehand or something. So it's this idea of the circle, I think, also united a lot of the sections. You see the circle going around, and that's a theme as well, choreographically and structurally. So I think they worked really nicely pulling out that theme within the space. So that was also really nice to see. Any other thoughts in response to the workshops next week? How you feel about them? It's going to be a different shift from creation into teaching and sharing and encouraging students' creativity.
I mean, we've obviously been trialing the workshops without people, which is a bit interesting, because you're like, hi, is everyone ready for a warm-up? Silence. So then we're sort of at the point now where we've just got to read the room as such, like because obviously each group is going to be different. You're not going to know what you're going to get. So I think the challenge for all of us is to almost improvise what we're doing at points, because everyone is different, everyone's capabilities is different. And so the workshops that we have created may be completely different at times for specific individuals. So I think that's our biggest challenge as a group.
Shannon.
Thank you. So obviously we all have our own little roles in the group, and we have 5 choreographers who obviously have worked really well, and we've kind of had to split our time. I'm like the scheduler and the timekeeper, and it's been quite difficult actually to like keep to the schedule and like make a schedule for every day, especially seeing we're in for like 7 hours a day. Like that's a lot of stuff to do. So we've spent a lot of intensive time kind of creating, and now that we've finished creating our piece, it's the next 2 weeks is like, okay, so we just rehearse a workshop. And obviously that takes time, but we've gone for so much intense, so much to do one day to, we just rehearse, but we can't really do all that much until the workshops begin tomorrow. So it's kind of just been trial and error within the group. We've been working with each other. So we'll be presenting to each other, running workshops with each other. But we've gone from so intense working, oh, we have to meet this deadline and get this done and filmed, to, okay, breathe. Like that was really difficult. Now we just get to kind of, although it is kind of a little bit stressful, it's really enjoyable to actually like give our work in a new way. I feel like with our workshops, we're recycling our work and giving it in a different way. And that's kind of calm and nicer to do. Anyway, yeah, I didn't know really what I was saying there, but yeah.
Nice. Thank you, Shannon. Yeah, it's a new challenge, isn't it? It's a different challenge. And they're already growing from just the experience of running things multiple times with this group, and that trial and error is a learning process in and of itself. Actually, I was just looking at the first years, wondering if they might want a workshop. We might have a gap next week. If you're up for it, let us know. It might be nice to experience some of the choreography and some of the methods that we've been up to. So we've got time for maybe one last question, if anybody has something they'd like to offer. Ev, I'm going to mute myself while you talk.
I thoroughly enjoyed it, guys. Just lovely to see you perform and just work as a real sense of ensemble throughout. You know, when you do your workshop, I'm just curious because I missed the first part when Malika was explaining. I didn't miss your film. I saw your beautiful work. But are you showing the film to each workshop group and then going into the workshop, or how is it working? Are they seeing you dance live? I mean, I don't know. I've missed the first part of your little introduction. So what's happening in each workshop?
So the idea is we have about 7 different school groups that have signed up for a workshop, and they all receive a link to the video to watch beforehand.
Right.
So, I mean, we've actually, Zoe in Outreach is coordinating this for us, and she actually did say you can watch the video before possible, recognizing that the schedule of different groups of students might not always allow them to have a class beforehand. But I think most of the groups will have seen the piece before. So during the workshops, we might show a short excerpt of the video just to refresh their memory about the section that we'll be working with. But no, we're not planning to perform it again necessarily next week. But you know, the other thing that comes to my mind with this whole process is how complex the camera work is as well, and how it really created a sense of feeling like we were dancing with you guys as we watched the piece. I personally was very impressed by that after having seen it in the studio, watching it from, you know, being with them in the space from my own sort of still vantage point usually. And then the experience of kind of swimming with them in the water, or, you know, moving through the air as part of the section. I really enjoyed that, what it opened up, you know, the possibility to do this as a screen dance piece. Whereas, you know, in previous years, we would be touring live to schools and, you know, taking the stages. But actually, it's opened up a really interesting avenue for artistic exploration. So I think it's been quite thrilling to watch it develop, I would say. Great. Okay, I think that's maybe a good moment to finish. We'd just like to thank everyone again for joining us for this Q&A. It's been really lovely to have you today. Hear the thunderous applause. Online, which is a different kind of applause, but no less special. We're really, really pleased to have you join us today. And thank you so much for your comments, your feedback, and I'm sure the conversations can spill out again in other spaces as well. But yeah, thank you again, and we look forward to seeing you guys soon, and wish these guys a fantastic week of workshops. Oh, Ollie has something to say.
I've just got one thing to say, my lovely people. Can we have a big round of applause for Malaga and Harrison for helping us out with our company project? That's it, guys.